Hello everyone and welcome back to Dragon Age 2. This is episode 10. Last time we continued to do some more quest lines specifically tied to the Canary and the Tower of Ashoth, rescuing the Viscount's son who didn't really want to be rescued at all, escorting a Canary mage out, away from smuggling it out of the city. And there was very interesting storylines there as well. We got some more expansion on how the Canary mages are treated, and we ran into more Tower of the Shoth, and it went about as good as you'd expect. It ended in the deaths of all of them, and then Katosian deciding to go in a sea of flames, lighting himself on fire. And we are going to continue now, as today we have only a few main quests left on the agenda. We've really done quite a decent job of things. This is the wrong place. We're going to head to Gamlen's house, and we're basically going to put every single piece of DLC gear just into our inventory and put it in storage, so it should just get rid of it from our quest log. So we're going to take everything. Oh, and we get Codex entries. We got a lot of Codex entries, so this is kind of cool. I think these are all just going to be Codex DLC descriptions based on all of the items, so I'm a fan of that. I hope you guys are ready for a lot of reading, because my inventory is already full. I hope you guys are ready for a lot of reading. Let me see. Damn, my inventory is full, and it's not even junk related. Okay. Also, I just noticed, I guess, because we've bought 2 backpack upgrades, you can actually see your maximum inventory of 100 there. It looks like there's 3 backpack slots to find. Hopefully this storage is infinite. That would be nice. We'll drop everything. I've got to sell a bunch of weapons and gear. But we will get this out of here. Let me do this, because this is just going to be a back and forth adventure, and probably the least exciting thing that you'll see today. So I'm going to do a back and forth of all of the stuff that we've gotten, and then we will do some light reading together, and then maybe we'll also decide on if we're going to take any of this gear with us or not. I'll do that now. Okay, here we find ourselves with a much better journal. Look how clean that is. We took out everything, and now the only premium content left is just 3 actual quests. So our codex now is going to be very full. We read the Genlock codex entry in episode 2 when they appeared, so that's fine. Look at all of those items. Oh god. Are you guys ready to read? Let's have a look. I think it was just all the items. Looks like there's some here as well. And lore. Places, no. Characters, no. Letters and notes. Notes, no. Okay, cool. So, there's just some lore, and there's some items. Now, I made a comment about how there was a significant lack of item lore, because we'd only found these 2. And we found it all. Now, I don't know how long this lore is going to be. It's just going to be some short little descriptions. Let's read them, because why not? We should read them. So this is just going to be all of the DLC items that we've picked up. So we've got the long trek. Malcolm would never tell his wife or young children where he was from. It was a bloody tale that forever gave him nightmares. When their love was still fresh, Leandra once pressed him on the subject. All he would say is, "Freedom's price is never cheap. That was 100 leagues and a lifetime ago. His haunted gaze lingered on his favorite boots, and he would say no more. The fugitive's mantle. Malcolm Hawke ranged the breadth of the free marches as he ran from the Templars who pursued him. He often posed as a mercenary, and his substantial martial skills easily secured him positions in different bands. On one assignment for the Crimson Oars, he was sent to Kirkwall, the seat of Templar power in the region. He had every intention of staying there briefly, but fate had other plans. So it looks like this is some stuff in regards to, I'm assuming that's our father's name, Malcolm Hawke, the other mage apostate. It's very interesting having one already out of the picture, and then we've got Bethany, our sister. In Kirkwall, Malcolm met Leandra, and despite all common sense, courted her. The few times Leandra managed to slip away from her family, Malcolm showed her a whole new world. Something completely different from her cloistered existence. It was dangerous, forbidden, and she quickly fell madly in love with the dashing Malcolm Hawke. These stolen moments would end all too soon. One day, while fighting the Carter on the docks, Malcolm used magic to save the life of the Crimson Oar's leader. The Kirkwall Templars were alerted, but Malcolm wouldn't flee the city without seeing his love one last time. He devised to meet her at the masked ball for visiting Orlesian Empress. Disguised in Orlesian robes, Malcolm slipped past the Templars to dance with his love. At the end of the night, Leandra would not hear his goodbyes and chanced at happiness rather than face her grey, prearranged future. Malcolm and Leandra ran into the night and never looked back. Malcolm and Leandra fled across the waking sea to a new life away from the cold shadow of the gallows. It took some doing, but the vastness of Ferelden allowed them to fall beneath the notice of their Templar pursuers. They settled in the small village of Lothering, where Malcolm made every effort to ensure that his children didn't fear magic and were well insulated against those who did. Malcolm had picked up a trick or two here and there, and this deceptively simple staff shows the breadth of his knowledge. More an ongoing project than a specialist's tool, it is the handiwork of someone comfortable with the life he must live for as long as he was granted the opportunity to live it. There we go. And that is the story of Malcolm Hawke. Aldenon's vestments. To all appearances, he was a hedge wizard hailing from the Frostbacks, perhaps Alamari, but from the wild lands if so. Venerable, certainly worthy of respect, but not commanding it. When he stormed into my master's feast hall and offered his service in a resounding voice, there was laughter at his audacity. Several bondsmen offered to remove the miscreant, but before they could grab him, the mage lifted his staff and the bondsman fell to the ground. Each time they stood, they slipped again, and their antics were met with laughter. Arl Tenador the Elder, who was not long for this world, demanded to know who this arrogant invader was. I am the beginning of the end. I am Luckbinder, Spellweaver, and the Keeper of Secrets, and I am here to build a kingdom. I am Aldenon the Wise, and if you haven't heard of me yet, never can you say the same again. His voice boomed, silencing all. His magic was potent, and the hall gave him a wary look. Tenador accepted him as his advisor that day. Then, when Tenador the Younger rose to his father's seat, he took Aldenon into service as well. I sat with the mage in many councils, and although his magecraft was greater than even the Tevinter Magisters, many believed his advice to be folly. He had little appreciation for the hard truths of our lands, they said. Compassion, mercy, justice, they matter not when Terran Simeon invades your land, subverts your nobles, and takes what's yours. He grew bitter and impatient with us and ours, and these sentiments were often returned. But others could see he had a vision of something better than the endless petty wars of Terrans and Arls. When Arl Emeridin besieged us, a youth named Calenhad was sent to meet the Asp, but all expected a treacherous end. Yet the boy returned to great acclaim and announced there would be no terms. Aldenon was taken with the foolhardy honour the boy displayed and seemed to awaken us as from a dark dream. The mage told Tenador the Younger he would lend his aid for this battle, but after that, he would serve another. Tenador accepted his resignation with relief more than anything. By the end of the siege of the Western Hill, Arl Tenador was no more. It was Calenhad who defeated Mirden in single combat, and he became Terran Calenhad. Aldenon was named his chief advisor, from the recollections of Sir Deveth, Banner Knight of King Calenhad. It's cool to get some more Calenhad-related lore and story here as well. Freedom's Promise. As Calenhad grew into a man, one great contentious issue separated him from Aldenon, Calenhad's faith. As biddable as Calenhad was on some topics, never would he back down from matters of honour or Andraste. What Aldenon believed, only Aldenon knew, but he most certainly did not believe in the Maker. The friends' arguments grew only hotter as the years passed. But that aside, the union of Calenhad's peerless honour and Aldenon's ingenuity overcame every obstacle set before them. Rivals turned into friends, treacheries were uncovered, and impossible battles won. But as we turned to Terran Simeon, no one rested easy. Terran Simeon host outnumbered us many times over. He controlled the holy city of Denerim. Many great and terrible warriors had sworn him fealty. Aldenon conceived a plan to enlist strong allies, and Calenhad went into the Brecilian forest to make it so. But unbeknownst to the mage, Calenhad had made contact with the Chantry. When Calenhad returned at the head of the Ash Warriors, as Aldenon expected, so as well did Templars and Circle Mages join our host. Aldenon was in a fury such as I've never seen. He wanted a kingdom of free men, of moral people beholden to law, where a common man could tend his land safely and in peace. He lifted his staff, and his voice echoed through the hills. A civilization cannot be civil if it condones the slavery of another, and that is what the Circle is. But by accident of birth, those mages would be free to live, love, and die as they choose. The circles will break, if it be 1 year, a decade, a century, or beyond. Tyrants always fall, and the downtrodden always strive for freedom. Then Aldenon left, and although Lady Shayna slew Simeon that day and Calenhad ruled a united kingdom, my liege was not the same without his mentor and friend. We live in the kingdom built on the dreams of two great friends, and we are all lessened by Aldenon's departure. Something I really like about this at the moment, hopefully it stays this way, is all the items seem to be in order, at least, if they are connected with a story. So we're not just reading a bunch of stuff out of order, which could be, a definite problem. So it's good that we get to see a continuation. Robes of the Pretender. As the Chantry's hold on the kingdom grew, and Aldenon's rebel mages were claimed one by one, the great Calenhad came to regret letting the Circle form in his kingdom. Certainly he missed his old friend's counsel. And then Calenhad disappeared, leaving crown and kingdom to his unborn son. One story says he tracked down Martirel the Elusive. Yes, I must track down the elusive guy, the only one of Aldenon's apprentices who was never captured. Calenhad managed what the Templars could not, and found the mage. He asked Martirel where Aldenon had fled to, but Martirel refused him. The next night, the king asked again, and was again refused, so he began to tell Martirel his whole life story. After a full week, the king reached the end of his tale, and Martirel heard the regret in the king's words. So the mage broke his solemn vow, and told Calenhad where his old master had gone. Calenhad thanked him, and left to find his truest friend. Whether Calenhad ever found Aldenon, what they said, or wherever they made amends, only the Maker knows. But that's the last anyone ever saw our king. Wisdom's Eye. Although his vestments are legendary, Aldenon also weaved many subtle and potent enchantments into his cap during the years he fought against the Circle Tower of Ferelden. He claimed he could use Wisdom's Eye to even see the future. Pegasus's Millennium Eye. Certainly the innumerable times he and the other rebel mages escaped Templars lend some credence to this claim. When Aldenon's band numbered fewer than the fingers of one hand, he donned his hat and meditated a full day. When he awoke, he said the Maker and the Circle had won, and he bade his apprentices run. He was never heard from again. An air of confidence. After averting a disaster at the Circle of Markham, Evra was given this ring by the first enchanter. Though the air of confidence is not as eye-catching as his other famous ring, it is said that Evra always wore it, even when sleeping. The exact magical properties of the air of confidence are a subject of much speculation amongst minstrels. The Amulet of Ashes, which is a ruined piece of charred wood, and it hangs from its setting of half-melted gold. Holding it over an open flame, however, reveals its powers. In the flickering flames, the gold recedes into some former shape, while the wood turns brown and reveals its grain. Some form of Elvish, I cannot read it. Blood Dragon armor, commissioned by the infamous Navaran dragon hunter. This armor was crafted in a time when dragons had almost been hunted to extinction. Infused with the beast's blood, the armor gained notoriety after the hunter died at the hands of men, rather than the dragons it was designed to protect him from. The Far Cliffs of Kirkwall, written by a Ferelden refugee as she fled the Blight. This book of poems describes her dreams of a new start in Kirkwall, the city across the sea. Readers will surely be enriched by her insights. I think that might be these tomes that we have. We've got a couple of tome items. So that's probably what this is in relation to. Hader's Razor. In Kirkwall's seedier quarters, fortunes have been built on the slave trade. This ancient dwarven blade undoubtedly commanded a high price, but Hader could clearly afford it. Who says crime doesn't pay? Jura's Blue Flame. This weathered silver amulet has passed through many hands over the years. A deep blue sapphire almost glows in a certain light. Although time has faded its intricate engravings, the amulet has a certain majesty about it. Evra's Trophy Belt. This grisly belt is filled with monstrous teeth, chipped blades, scraps of fur, and armor fragments. Each piece is said to be a trophy collected by Evra during his many adventures. When Evra gained notoriety by defeating the Blood Sisters of Venstal, he was wearing his signature ring. Although the massive size of the solid gold ring attracts attention, it served a more practical purpose for Evra. He used it to punch demons in the face, sometimes felling them in a single blow. Fade Shear. The core of this blade is old as the first smiths who sought a way to battle the nightmares from the land beyond. It has fought the demonic hosts in countless battles. Sometimes it has been held high in triumphant victory. Other times it has lain broken besides its dying owner. But after every defeat, it has always been reclaimed, reforged, and made stronger. Fade Shear has passed through many hands before yours. Now it is your turn to make the demons of the Fade pay for crossing the veil into the waking world. The Spirit Bane, I love it. Boots of the Frozen Wastes. Temperatures in the Frozen Wastes can become perilously cold. The barbarians that live there favor boots like these to protect against frostbite. The barbarians, who are generally hospitable and friendly, often present these as gifts to travelers. I love the description of the barbarians being generally hospitable and friendly, because barbarians are always stereotyped into being the savages of the wastes, you know? Hindsight. There are more famous swords than you could count. There are helms beyond numbering, and there are breastplates, daggers, and even mystical footwear that roll immediately off the tongue. There are storied rings, gloves, and even bags invoked around a camp's common fire. But belts. There are very few noteworthy belts. It was here that the dwarf Thowlid Hammerspur decided he would make his mark. Here, he thought, between the tunic and the trousers, I will stake my claim. He was familiar with the state of the art, of course. As an artificer making a name for himself in Orzammar, he had access to the typically robust record-keeping of the forgers. He knew of the drunkard cinch and the pouch paw, but there was no poetry to them, no lineage. They were parlor tricks, the domain of hawkers and pawns. He wanted a belt whose buckle gleamed with purpose. But what purpose? He worked on it from time to time, waiting for inspiration to strike. In the meantime, he needed something to keep his pants above the knee and thought he might as well wear the damned thing. And he did so until, after an especially memorable night at Tapster's Tavern, he managed to fall into his own forge. Shoveling out his remains, they found among the grey ashes his belt, somehow mercifully preserved. Hindsight is a belt possessed of a strange, slow intellect. Whatever would have killed the wearer does, and at that very moment, the belt develops a resistance that would have saved its owner. No one knows how Thowlid managed this, and at this point, it would be difficult to ask him. When the belt is held in the light, just so, the leather reveals a grisly catalogue etched in glinting lyrium. Oh wow. Thowlid Hammerspur, fire. Gorgut the Wizened, poison. Villarak, stabbed 43 times. Haliath Baronet, witches. It went on like this for many years until it fell into your possession, your temporary possession. It's so cool. It's a belt that learns from the deaths of its owners and gains a resistance to it. The magical belt. There you go. The irons, fashioned from the black steel of Kirkwall's infamous iron foundries, miners' safety harnesses such as this one have protected their hardy wearers since the days when the Tevinter Emporium last claimed the City of Chains. And here we go. This is Sir Isaac's armor, which I believe is the Dead Space gear. The chilling tales of Sir Isaac of Clark are a favorite of bards performing in the wee hours of the night. In dank taverns throughout Thedas, these horror-filled stories captivate listeners and bring nightmares to those faint of heart. That's very cool. Ivo family crest. Evolving over the years, the crest of House Ivo has become much more ornate than Paragon Ivo's original design. This ancient golden amulet bears the original crest. Though the engravings are simple, the stark lines are somehow deeply stirring. The Lion of Orlais. At the height of the Summer War, all of Orlais was embroiled in fierce battles. Over the course of the war, dozens of contenders for the imperial throne emerged, most long forgotten except as footnotes in scholarly tomes. But everyone remembers the gallant young lord Emile Devereux, the Golden Prince. Though outnumbered at every turn, he racked victory upon victory, culminating in the 7th Battle of Roses. While wearing this shield, he broke through his uncle's vanguard to win the day. He never knew the taste of defeat, instead meeting his end at the hands of a jealous lover in the dead of night. Of Things Not Lost. Written by a Ferelden refugee as she fled the Blight, this book of poems describes her struggles to preserve her past and cling to the few physical mementos she'd brought with her into foreign lands. Readers will surely find this book enchanting. Lothering's Lament. Readers will surely benefit from this experience of touching reminiscence of all she had to leave behind. We've got a few tomes here. The Staff of Parthalan. The Staff of Parthalan. Parthalan. During the Exalted March, the Tevinter Emporium was in chaos. Magister, oh my god. It's like I do so well, and then there's one word, and I'm tripped up. Magister Parthalan and 2 high-ranking magisters were sent to Kirkwall to put down the slave uprising before it spread to the entire empire. However, their legion never arrived at Kirkwall. No one knows what happened to the party, Magister Parthalan, or his fabled staff. It's because there's Arlathan, and my brain reads this and wants to go Parlathan instead of Parthalan, because they're so similar. Fantasy names, getting them all mixed up. Longbow of the Avars. We investigated the area as per your instruction. It seems Warden Fiona is correct. It was once a dwarven fortress that one of our scouts called Kul Baras. Regardless, it has fallen to ruin and the taint now. Despite Fiona's description, there were no darkspawn to be found. If they were ever present, they have since moved on, which, if you ask me, seems highly unlikely. Her tales of this darkspawn who speaks must be a product of a fevered imagination. There are no signs of a library in the fortress, nor any indication that the Grey Wardens or King Marek were there at all. One of my men did, however, find something in a section of the deep roads not far away. A longbow of Avar origin, mid darkspawn corpses, the age being hard to judge considering how the creatures deteriorate. I suspect this bow belonged to Kelap Morgan, the warden who has sacrificed himself to facilitate Fiona's escape. If so, he put up an impressive fight. We found no evidence of his body, sadly. I shall send the bow to you in Weishaupt. From a letter found on the body of a courier killed by bandits in the Endfells in the 20th year of the Dragon Age, which is very interesting because this is 10 years before Dragon Age Origins, and the first signs of talking Darkspawn came up, at least as far as I'm aware, during the time of Dragon Age Awakening, because of what the Architect was doing. The Architect gave him a bit of Grey Warden blood, and they unfortunately became a little bit more sentient and were driven mad as a result, right? So is this strange with the whole talking Darkspawn thing? I mean, look, it's not ludicrous to think that maybe there would be another Darkspawn at some point that would also speak. So maybe. Bard's Honor. A curious thing, Perrin. I found the axe among Kaelin's belongings, wrapped in damask cloth, and initially I thought it might be another gift from that Orlesian harlot. It was a pretty enough thing, and the markings on the blade certainly seemed imperial. I even went so far as to confront Kaelin with it, and do you know what he said? The axe was of personal importance to his father. So why wasn't it buried with his ashes, I asked. Because my mother wouldn't have approved. I wondered if he was lying. Kaelin's terrible at it. I did some digging, and are you aware there was an elven woman... Oh, hang on. There was an elven woman seen in Marek's company shortly before the Battle of River Dane. There was a rumor, I understand, that they were lovers, and that she was a bard. Was Marek being blackmailed? I wonder if this has anything to do with that mysterious bequeathment to those elven families in Orlais. Of course, I had Kaelin dispose of the axe immediately. From a letter written by Queen Anora of Ferelden in the 27th year of the Dragon Age. That's cool. Getting some Queen Anora text about Kaelin. Arms of the River Dane. The Battle of River Dane is among the most famous in Ferelden's history, fought at the onset of the Dragon Age in a bid to secure the country's independence from Orlesian rule. And we've read about the River Dane before in Dragon Age Origins quite a bit because because Loghain is involved in this one as well. The Ferelden army was cobbled together from commoners and bands who had turned against the Orlesian usurper King Megran. Even so, under the leadership of Loghain mac Tir, they scored an astounding victory against a large force of chevaliers fording the River Dane. Afterwards, Loghain was hailed as a Ferelden legend, and for a time veterans of the battle enjoyed similar statues. The soldiers' possessions became prized mementos, in particular the suits of armor belonging to those early supporters who joined Marek after the death of his mother Moira, the rebel queen. Folk tales suggest that the Maker's blessing lives on in the armor those brave allies wore on that fateful day. Fiona. Duncan became Ferelden's commander of the Grey in 10th year of the Dragon Age. We got some Duncan lore in here as well, which is great. Daddy's back, assuming the mantle from Commander Palara, under whom he had served since the Order's restoration in Ferelden. We should get a Dragon Age prequel, right? We should get a Dragon Age prequel about Duncan, because we barely get any Duncan, and he's instantly so iconic in his appearance, right? It's crazy when we were starting Dragon Age Origins, and I was like, oh man, this guy's going to be awesome. I can't wait to spend so much time with this dude. And he died. Where's my little Dragon Age prequel? You can play as Duncan. I guess that takes away a lot of the character customization aspect. So instead, I guess, instead of playable Duncan, just have a story where Duncan's like your boy, your partner or something. Palara, who hailed from Antiva, had built an amiable relationship with King Kaelin. She overcame many of the objections of Teyrn Loghain, who had argued strenuously against the Order returning. After all, the Wardens had attempted to overthrow the Ferelden throne centuries before. When Palara disappeared, perhaps recalled to Weishaupt, although none in Ferelden saw her leave, nor have seen her since, Duncan bequeathed to her son a silverite axe of great value. Duncan said he had wielded it and a twin in younger days, back when he had been a far different man. He'd named the axe Fiona, after a warden who inspired him, and suggested that the son ought to take similar inspiration from his mother. It's unknown what became of Palara's son, other than that he fled Ferelden during the same blight in which Duncan perished. Damn, okay. So he named an axe Fiona based after a warden who inspired him, and Warden Fiona is in the Longbow of the Avars entry. And then this was written in the 20th year of the Dragon Age. Same Fiona, different Fiona? Differing of timelines? I'm not sure. Maybe certain errors between items? Maybe. Teyrn Loghain mac Tir was not born a nobleman. It's said his family descended from freeholders in the Western Bannorn, a region known as Oswin. His father, Gareth, would have had no surname of his own. He likely would have only described himself as of Oswin or Ban Aishwin, as the region would have been known in the Old Tongue. The name mac Tir means son of the land. It was bestowed upon Loghain by King Marek after the Battle of River Dane. The Ferelden people considered the name highly appropriate to them. Teyrn Loghain was a son of the entire nation, and he was famously said to have told a crowd that Ferelden would forever be part of his blood. After Loghain's betrayal of King Caelan at Ostagar in the 30th year of the Dragon Age, the general became as reviled as he had once been revered. His manse in Gwaran was looted, and many of his personal possessions stolen, among them the armor he wore at the Battle of Rivendane. That armor is said to have special significance to the man. One peculiarity of the armor was a square of red silk pinned to one of the shoulder belts. For luck, Loghain once explained. King Maric's helm. King Maric Theron, widely regarded as a hero by the Ferelden people for liberating the country from Orlesian rule, disappeared at sea while en route to Wycombe in 25th year of the Dragon Age. He was to attend a gathering of the Marcher Lords in an attempt to forge a union in the north, and when he failed to appear, the Free Marchers fell back into the petty squabbling that they are infamous for. Teyrn Loghain spent almost 2 years searching for his lost friend, consuming much of the royal treasury and the majority of the Ferelden navy. The search was futile, and when Loghain claimed that Orlais had purposefully sunk King Maric's vessel in order to prevent Marcher unity, he was called off by his daughter, Queen Honora, and a united Benorn. It was time to mourn the king, they said, and so, in the 27th year of the Dragon Age, a massive state funeral was held in Denerim's Chantry. To this day, rumors insist that Maric is still alive. He's chilling on a beach in the in the northern regions. Is still alive, perhaps held in an Orlesian prison somewhere. The lasting mystique has increased the value of his personal possessions, leading to the theft of several artifacts from the royal palace. Among these was the helmet said to have been worn by a young Maric at the disastrous Battle of West Hill. The Black Fox's jerkin. During the merriest part of the night in any tavern in the lands, odds are good you'll hear one of the many tales of the Black Fox. A scoundrel and a hero, the Black Fox's misadventures took him and his band throughout Thedas. He's blamed for many thefts, a few murders, a revolution, and almost a kingdom-wide civil war, but every one of his deeds were designed to thwart tyranny and oppression. The final tale of the Black Fox tells of him and his band searching for the sunken city of the elves deep in the forest of Arlathan, where he parted with this jerkin in a less than voluntary manner. Hood's message to the king. He wields a rebel's bow, strung tight against heartwood strained too far. It's a tension that can't last, but it doesn't have to. For the cause must be won or lost while passions still burn. It's a powerful template for revolution repeated many times across the Free Marches, but was it born on a battlefield or in rhetoric? The message to the king is where the stories usually diverge. Sometimes it's a plea for liberty taken to a tyrant's heart by the point of an arrow. More often, it's carried in the clatter of sacrifice as weapons fall to a courtyard's cobbles. It depends on the audience. The young like their victories sudden and violent, while the old prefer something more cautionary. It may be that Hood is not so much a person as a tactic, ushered to far horizons or the grave's embrace in order to protect conspirators. After all, how many deaths can he claim when one is the typical limit for a common man? But the tales return time and time again across leagues and centuries. At a certain point, one hopes the name is symbolic, because allying with such a power would bring its own problems and debts. Javia's Shank. Oh, dude, Javia's from Dragon Age Origins, right? The one who took over when we went back to, into the, God, what's the name of it? The place in Orzammar that were all the, slums of Orzammar. Javia was a tough boss. When the Carter crime boss Barat fell, yep, nice, his lover Javia fought off rivals, planting this shank in each of their hearts before she emerged as the group's undisputed leader. For years, Javia used a mix of brutality, cunning, and blackmail to grow the Carter's power until it threatened the Diamond Quarter itself. When King Endrin Aeducan died, some whispered that Javia planned to force the Assembly to recognize the rights of Dusters in Orzammar. Or was it Dusttown? Is that what it's called? Dusttown. Others said she planned to overthrow the nobles entirely. The truth will never be known, though. She was killed in cold blood by the hero of Ferelden. The Lion's Claws. Foiled at every turn by the infamous outlaw Lady Rosamond, the ever-persistent Teyrn Loghain fielded an army to chase the bandit through the Korcari wilds. Eventually, she was captured near Barchamp. Bound, gagged, and in chains, she still managed to escape. on the first night using thieves' tools concealed in these gloves. To this day, there is an unclaimed bounty on her head of 1,000 sovereigns. The Rascal's Scale by Coinheart. Strangest suit I ever made? The scale for that fool rascal. No second thought needed. A project I wanted to try for years, obvious given my name, right? But I could never find a fool to wear his health as protection. His wealth as protection, sorry. This one, though, was daft as any surfacer and was paying 2 coins for each that I hammered, and that buys a smile and nod for any idiot. I guess he's something of a name in his own lands, this rascal, so I can't really question, and I did him my best, like always. Damned lyrium weave left my fingers numb, though. No sword will get through that, I guarantee, but I'll bet his children are born pale. From Tales of the Craft, masters in their own words, a record of Dwarven smithwork, guild archived. The Archon's Blades. The Archon's guard of Hessarian are vilified throughout the lands. The chant depicts their cruel treatment of Andraste as one of the reasons the Maker turned his gaze from his creation. After Hessarian converted to Andraste's teachings, he disbanded his guard and stripped them of their arms. Most of the guard's swords were destroyed, but a handful of the Archon's blades are still around. Perhaps one of the blades here drew the prophet's blood as the Archon interrogated Andraste before her execution. Beregrand the Bold. Beregrand the Bold was either a hero or a traitor, depending on how you look at it. Before exile was common among the dwarves, only the most heinous crimes warranted a dwarf being stripped of house and sent to the surface. Beregrand qualified and was banished on accusations of regicide after killing a dwarven king on the Proving Sands. Beregrand spat on the assembly that pronounced his sentence before strapping on his armor and leaving Gundar. Living on the surface, Beregrand's incredible fighting skills, tactical knowledge, and intellect built a naval empire centered in what would one day be Antiva. His most enduring legacy was teaching human smiths, engineers, and other crafters jealously guarded dwarven secrets. Cursed by dwarves and hailed by humans, Beregrand became a figure of much controversy. As complicated as his life was, the story of Beregrand's armor is even more checkered. His armor has passed through many heroes' hands over the centuries. Despite the advantages it gave them, no hero using it ever survived to old age. The Edge of Night. You've never seen a lad so taken with an axe. He carried one of the old sodding things with him wherever he went. Practicing day and night, he drove his mother to distraction. He did. Even when he was fully raised into the warrior caste, he refused proper weapons. Said he had the feel of an axe, and that's all he needed. Over the years, he spent a small fortune having smiths layer enchantments on him. Oh, how others would sneer at those ancient things. Well, they did until Beregrand locked off King Jegrek's head on the sands. Sad business, that, and Gundar was the poorer for it. And I'm not just talking about the king. From the Memories of Gundar, a collection of stories preserved by the Shaperate of the Lost Dwarven Kingdom. The Empress's Point. As one of the early rulers of contemporary Orlais, Empress Genevieve of the First created many of the traditions and practices of the imperial court. She employed the bravest and most skilled swordsmen to her guard, the Empress's Arm, one of the main predecessors of the Chevaliers. Her guards were given a princely gift, an enchanted Tevinter blade. These blades were named for the Empress's darkest side. When rivals overstepped their bounds, Genevieve was always quick to make them see her point. The Golden Prince's Raiment. Tales of Emile Devereux flourished amongst the Orlesian peasants. The dashing Golden Prince was a populist who raised a huge army from his common subjects by promising reform for the aging empire. Although he never won his imperial coronet, Lord Emile captured the hearts and minds of generations of Orlesian dreamers while wearing this golden armor. It is said that as a young girl, even Empress Celeste was captivated by his stories. The Ashen Cuirass. The charge of the Ash Warriors is a sight to behold. With hounds at their side and their fierce battle cries, the Ash Warriors have buckled the ranks of even stalwart veterans. And if the enemy line does hold, then the true test begins. Quill and ink is a poor medium to convey the sheer power of their rages. Despite the Ash Warriors' renown, several misconceptions persist. Some believe the mercenaries are predominantly Avar or chastened tribesmen. Certainly their armor evokes barbarian roots, but the men and women of the Ash Warriors are almost entirely civilized. In my travels as chronicler and surgeon, I spent several months with the Ash Warriors, although finding any willing to speak of their history was difficult. The stories I gradually elicited were chilling tales of hard men. One was an arsonist who joined the Ash Warriors on the gallows, another had committed fratricide, and another's dire past I dare not recount. In joining the Ash Warriors, their crimes were forgiven, for it was as if they were never born. Even in legal records, their old life is erased, contracts voided, marriages annulled, records of birth erased. In this, they are much like the Dwarven Legion of the Dead, which I was just about to bring up. Their new lives are dedicated to redemption and service. My first night with the band, I was startled when they asked me to sing a few verses from the Chant of Light. Grim to a man and fearsomely garbed, yet they were as eager to hear the chant as the most faithful parishioner. I felt as the first missionaries must have, surrounded by barbarians. The more I learned of the Ash Warriors, the more questions I had. They are mercenaries who demand no pay, men with no pasts, considered the king's men, yet beholden to no one. I could have travelled with them for many, many years and still had mysteries to uncover. From the Annals of Scarlet March by Brother Badine, Chantry Scholar. The Dogs of War. And then the Velkaminth swung his mighty hammer, and the blow tore the Alamari band's head clean off. He lay crumpled beneath the war leader, and Velkaminth did shout, "You canine lovers! You who think you can defeat me! Stand before me and my dogs! They are the Dogs of War!" And he planted his blood-soaked hammer in the earth, and his enemies did quiver. But victory would not go to the chastened that day, for Hafter approached and intoned, "I am Hafter, slayer of darkspawn, leader of the Alamari. No dog nor wolf alive frightens me." And so they traded blows for 3 days and 3 nights. Bruised, bloodied, and tired they grew. It was after 1,000 blows that Hafter's blade, Usaris, and Velkaminth's heart. Then Hafter spake, "I banish the chastened from these plains. I have taken the greatest of your men from you and claimed his weapon as my own. If ever you rise against me or my sons, we will take more than that." And so, to this very day, the chastened never venture far from their wilds, and the children of Hafter still hold our lands free. From Tales of the Alamari. We used Usaris a lot in Dragon Age Origins. It's cool to see weapon names come back up again. Horberk of Gelganig the Faithful. Not all of the Alamari tribes flocked to Andraste, especially on the borders of the Korkari wilds. Her words found scant purchase. Decades after her death, many Alamari held true to the gods of their ancestors. Missionaries braved these hard lands only to become martyrs of the faith. And so it was until the Alamari were embroiled in a bitter war for survival against the Chasens and Avars, where the leader of the Ash Warriors, Gelganig, received a vision of Andraste. The charismatic barbarian travelled throughout Ferelden, telling his tale and unifying the fractious bands around the world of the Maker. The Ash Warriors ever since have been fervent in their faith to the Maker. To the Ash Warriors, Gelganig's armour is a religious relic, but it was lost in the Navaran campaign of the 69th year of the Blessed Age. The Mountain Fathers Haft. The Frostbacks run red with barbarian blood. We've found their secret caves and claimed their most holy relics. When the soldiers came out of the mountain cave and brandished this weapon, the Avars rose up in a mighty furor. We had to put down every man, woman, and child. It was as if they'd gone rabid. Before they perished, their witch woman pronounced a curse so vile and treasonous, 3 soldiers had to be whipped to re-establish discipline. Our guide says this axe is a sacred weapon, a weapon of the gods. We plan to march further into the mountains to defeat the last of the tribes. Surely there cannot be more than 1,000 left. I have every confidence that by next spring these barbarians will plague us no more. Then we can turn our attention fully to the Chastened and Alamari. Although this axe may look crude, I assure you that it is an enormous importance to these backwards people. Consider it the first spoils of many. Last letter to Magister Telerio from the first Tevinter expedition against the Avars. 483, I think what's really cool is this is one of the first things I think we've ever read that's had a dated system around the Tevinter times. That's very cool. T.E. Willem's Bulwark. From the fair and deadly Lady Shayna to his faithful squire Sir Tillers, much is known of the companions of Calenhad, the first king of united Ferelden, but seldom do bards recount tales of Willem Halfear and the Ash Warriors. While noble Calenhad was trying to assemble a nation, he found himself greatly outnumbered by Terran Simeon's forces. It seemed a foregone conclusion that Calenhad would fall, but on the advice of Aldanon the Wise, Calenhad ventured deep into the Brazilian forest in search of allies. Those woods have a fearsome reputation, and after a fortnight of waiting for their liege to re-emerge, his men lost hope. And then Calenhad returned with Willem Halfeer by his side and the Ash Warriors behind him. Although the Ash Warriors... sometimes when I just scroll, I lose my place. And then Calenhad returned with Willem Halfeer by his side and the Ash Warriors behind him. Although the Ash Warriors' numbers were relatively few, they turned the tide in the Battle of the White Valley. Halfeer and his men breached the enemy's van, allowing Calenhad and Lady Shayna to kill Terran Simeon and unite the land. Sitting at the Ash Warriors' campfire, listening to them tell of the prowess of Willem Halfeer, it has become clear to me that his role in the formation of our kingdom is greatly underestimated. Lovely. We've read all the items, guys. We made it. Goddamn story time with Apocalypse when we get into the Dragon Age lore, and I love every minute of it. Thank you for holding the line, staying with me through all of the items if you're still here and you haven't skipped to the end. Adder of Antiva. These brightly painted bows are prized possessions among the Antivan pirates. A rain of arrows can clear the deck of an approaching ship and light fire to its sails. Apostate's Courage. Among the Magi, some still whisper of Calith the Renegade. Seeking freedom from beneath the Templar's heel, he fled the Chantry with a cabal of his most loyal acolytes. They reached the mountains before the winter squalls and lived there as free men for one glorious season. The spring thaws brought a vast mercenary army, however, paid for and led by the Templar Order. Wanting to avoid bloodshed, Calith and his acolytes surrendered peaceably, and allowed themselves to be made tranquil. The Ring of Resilience. This faceted iron ring pulses with a mysterious energy. As the beating of your heart increases, so does the intensity of its glow. Seeker's Bulwark. Emblazoned with the symbols of the Chantry Templars and greatly scarred from use, this large iron shield bears an unseen weight. It has been warded against magic to better protect the Seekers who wield it in pursuit of apostate mages. Might of the Sten. Hello, Sten. This heavy Canary sword is exquisitely balanced, although no nicks mar the edge. The bloodstains on the leather grip suggest it has seen its share of battle. Lovely. Alright, there we go. We have read the items and the lore, and thank you so much for bearing with me for that. I hope you enjoyed that. If you sat all the way through it with my story time. If you skipped through it, I respect it. I'm disappointed, but I respect it. But I'm disappointed. So we're going to now continue with only Memento of Legacy and Memento of Mark the Assassin left here, and we will do those at a later date in the story. So we have survived the longest lore reading of all time. We have a very full storage chest now, and I'm going to keep all of the stuff that is green in there for now. I'll sell the rest of this stuff, and then I haven't really decided if I'm going to utilize any of this. Probably a good idea to do so. I'm not sure if it still scales with our level once it's been taken out of the chests, but there's a lot here to go through, and I'm like, yeah, there's a lot that's like restricted to a mage, so I may as well sell it, because it's not gonna ever be used or equipped. I can only really use the stuff that's allowed to be used by a warrior. But we used a lot of DLC gear in Dragon Age Origins for a while before we were able to get to some other things, and I don't necessarily feel a huge pull to use anything in here, only because it doesn't feel necessary. With that being said, we will leave it for now. No letters available at this time, but we do have a level up. I think we got a lot of XP from picking up all those items and all the Codex entries. The game loved that, so I'll take it. We'll do that. We'll put some more willpower in there. And we've got 1 ability point, which I think I'm going to still commit to this tree. Now, I now have the... We've got the brittle... We've got the brittle points. I think I might do the brittle ones. Oops. I think I might do the brittle ones. 200% for Reaper, and then 300% in damage and 200%. So we might go for just max out our blow. We'll blow them hard and fast and strong, and we'll shatter them when we blow them. And that'll be good. Mix it with the mages. Now, in terms of ordering runes and stuff, we do own some runes. Looks like we can craft them with stuff that we have as well. We can order them in. I don't know how to equip runes. It looks like it's just got move to junk and destroy. This is where we can order them. There must be some sort of oh, it might be the enchantment with what's his face. Enchantment? It might be that. We might have to do some enchantment to get those runes applied. Let's form our party. And in terms of quests now, we've got the Black Emporium, which is a premium content. We've got Act of Mercy, which is a main quest at the Wounded Coast. And then we have giving our 50 sovereigns to go to the Deep Roads. So I think while we're on the subject of premium content and we've just read all of those items and entries, we're going to head to the Black Emporium for the first time, which is a new quest, and we'll see what this is all about. Let's take a look. Also, this whole time, because we picked up so many items out of all those chests, I still have all of the Codex entries still popping up on the side here. It's kind of fucking... it's kind of hilarious. Like, I can't get any of all of these descriptions to go away, because it's just going to say Codex updated here forever. And if I do this, there we go. It eventually goes away. There we go. I just had to click it 5 million times. I'm going to save the game. And we're going to check out this. Oh. Oh, it's very small in here.
Customer. Thaddeus, stand straight. Places, everyone. Welcome to the Black Emporium.
Oh. Okay, so it's not like a huge location or anything. It's like a DLC shop. Andraste and Nude Repose. Invisible. Emporium Golem. What is going on? Why is there a boy? Urchin child.
Don't manhandle the urchin. He's not for sale. Find your own.
What?
Don't manhandle the urchin. He's not.
This voice is so creepy.
Find your own.
Okay.
That Golem's name is Thaddeus Gigantus Crumbum III. He's my favorite.
Thaddeus Gigantus Crumbum III. Andraste and Nude Repose. Invisible. Okay, so we've got some more reading to do here, everybody. Andraste in Nude Repose. Invisible. Can stone lie with purpose? Can it beckon with raw feminine command, yet shine with an inspiring virtue? That challenge was posed to sculptor Arwand de Glace, artisan and son of Empress Vaugine of Orlais. It was busy work and rhetoric in a time of excess, but answer he did with the reserves of a nation and a passion unhealthy. His subject, Our Lady, though not as depicted in traditional statuary. Arwen's mad ambition summoned the form of Andraste, uninterrupted by the trappings of war and devoid of the vestments she assumed after death. It was living, commanding, obscene, yet inspired. To gaze upon it was to be enthralled, spiritually and physically. It was the latter that alarmed Chantry officials. They blanched as the thought of Our Lady being possessed of such a base appeal, even as they too were drawn. The work could not be destroyed without threatening the balance between Empire and Hallowed, so a grave censorship was enacted under the guise of honouring. Enchanters were tasked with extending the ethereal that hides the fade, drawing it around the form like a cloak. Our Lady remains in the stone and in this world, but mortal eyes are forever denied her treasure and glory. She is veiled in every sense. As in all things, unintended consequences must vex those with pure intentions. Modesty would have been better served by a thickened sheet drawn back when techniques were to be studied. As it is, the sculptor's skills are accessible only to an exploring touch, defining the shape by intimate caress. All manner of strange congress has stemmed from tempted hands and the innocent wish for clarity. From Art and Shame, Forbidden Wonders of Faith by Fosine de Petitforet, translated by Philium, a bard.
Please, don't fondle Andraste.
Andraste's tits, the pickled apples of Arlathan. I expressed my incredulity to the shop's assistant, who coldly noted that he did not like my implication. He insisted that every article in the Black Emporium was genuine, no fakes, imitations, or cheap knockoffs. I must have appeared unconvinced, for the assistant narrowed his eyes at me and disappeared into the bowels of the shop, returning several minutes later. He removed the jar of pickled apples from its display case and proceeded to carefully, reverentially, remove the wax seal from the lid of the jar. I watched with fascination as the jar was opened and a single rosy apple pulled from it. It looked as if it had been picked just that day, at the peak of ripeness. With a paring knife, the assistant cut the tiniest sliver of flesh from the apple and presented it to me. The flavour of that one small slither was astonishing. It was as close to a perfect apple as ever there was. I was experiencing the essence of every apple ever eaten, and that ever will be eaten. When it was over, the sense of loss that filled me was sharp enough to move me to tears. The rest of the apple was returned to the jar, which was then resealed. I paid 5 sovereigns for that single taste, and I believe I got the better part of the bargain. From the letters of Brother Ferdinand Genitivi to Sister Petrine, Chantry Scholar. So, Brother Genitivi's first name, Ferdinand. Death Note moment. We got a Shinigami getting a taste of an apple. Okay, this is amazing.
File those plebeian items. Take what you like. No charge.
Plebeian items, discarded weapons and armor. And we got some more stuff in here. The Song of Sorrows dagger, ancient leather cuirass, helm of appreciation, gloves of the unknowable unknown, ring of unheeded wisdom. Are these all going to be Codex entries? No. No Codex entries, but they're there nonetheless. Okay.
Look around. So many things to admire.
The fact that you can actually hear screaming from the box. This is great. So this is basically just going to end up being the premium content items and Black Emporium episode of reading all of the cool things, and I'm not mad about it at all. This is a great little exploration. The box of screaming. I received the box from a man I met in the Silent Plains. He spoke little and would not reveal his name. For reasons I shall not detail here, I had been kidnapped and left for dead in that grey, wind-blasted wasteland. After days of walking, I was parched and close to death. I was about to dash my head on a rock to speed my passing when the man arrived. He possessed a water skin containing ample water for a person traveling from our location to the Imperial Highway. From there, he said, I could find my way to Solus or Perivantium. He offered to give me the water skin if I agreed to take 3 things from him: a glowing crystalline shard, a bronze sphere, and an iron-bound box with no hinges. I asked the man if he wished to have these items delivered. He said that he merely wanted me to have them. It was an odd request, but I was too weak and too desperate to think much of it, and so I agreed. The man put the items into a leather sack, which he handed to me along with the water. What about you? I asked. He said nothing, only pointed in the direction from which I had come. There is nothing that way. I said. He merely smiled at me. I found the Imperial Highway about a day later, and an Imperial caravan driver agreed to take me to Perivantium in exchange for the large glowing shard. In Perivantium, I bartered the bronze sphere for new clothes and room at the inn. That night, I examined the iron-bound box and found no way to open it. I held it to my ear and thought I heard slow, measured breathing coming from within. My mind was afire with curiosity, and I obtained from the innkeeper a large hammer, thinking to smash the thing open. The moment the hammer touched the box, it shrieked. The shrill sound pierced the depths of my soul. I gave the box to the innkeeper in the morning and felt better for having rid myself of it. A page torn from a mysterious journal on display here in the Black Emporium. Goddamn random screaming box. It's like a Knights of the Old Republic. I hate that. It's such a genuine blood-curdling scream too. It reminds me of while there was no sound out of it in Knights of the Old Republic, there's an object that you can like go into, and there's a character trapped in there, and it's a very fun little scene.
Crafting lore gathered from throughout Data. Price is negotiable.
Price is negotiable. Emporium's crafting materials. Okay, so we can actually buy stuff here. Elixir of Arcane Technique. You get spell talent power +1. Attribute points +2 on the Mortal Vessel. Rock Armor Potion. Maker's Sigh. This concoction allows whoever consumes it to permanently reallocate all his or her attribute specializations and spells. Oh, that's amazing and not too expensive. Nice. Fell Poison. Nice, so we've got venoms and poisons still and a combustion grenade. That's nice, so we can reallocate everything if we need to.
Those rare, enchanted goods are the prizes of my collection. Master Socks. You can never have enough socks.
Wise words to live by. When you grow up and you hated growing up and getting new underwear and socks, when you grow up, it's such a good gift. I go out there and I buy myself a nice little premium pair of socks, and you wear them and you're like, I can't believe I used to have like those thin socks that would just like tear after. Just get yourself some good socks, guys. It's so important. It's so very important. Emporium's Relics and Antiques. Let's have a look. The Anderfell Cleaver. Desdemona's Blade. Lady Rosamund's Bulwark. Arlathan Replica Bow. And the Magister's Scythe. These are some good ones here. Plus 50 attack and 2 runes with nature damage. The Anderfell Cleaver does fire damage, plus 63 attack. These are quite good. Vestments of the Mystic. Cap of the Antivan King. Gauntlets of the Nug. Enemies drop better equipment. Invisible Gloves. Minus threat detection. Amazing. Sandals of the Mystic. Boots of tremendous weight. The Fallen Staff. 48 sovereigns. A +1 experience gain. And a +1 to all attributes as well. Is pretty good. Sturdy Belt. 48 sovies though. More Maker's Sigh. Love it. Stare into the mirror of transformation. Is this an option to remake your character?
Second thought. Please do.
That laugh to a cough, amazing. Is this an option to redo your character? Mass Effect Andromeda has this, which is nice. And I like that there's a lore reason for it. Like there's a way that it makes sense for it to work instead of just randomly being able to do it. Yes. I could even go back to the preset Hawk. Would that change the appearance of my family again? Surely, right? How funny is it that we could go back? If only I could stare into a mirror of transformation in real life and get myself a nice little head of hair, huh? Wouldn't that be nice? I do actually quite like the default look, which is great, but I just feel like it robs us. You know, it kinds of robs us of our own unique adventure. I kind of want to change my portrait. I love that we're just staring right into the camera, but all of the other characters, are all exactly the same. So I kind of want to put myself in line with them now onto the center. We've had our fun staring at the staring into the void. Now I think I wish for a background change. How far away are they from the camera? About that far? Yeah. They're all kind of there. There you go. I've fixed my portrait. But cool, we get a free of charge change of appearance, and they don't even acknowledge it. It's great. Should I do my realistic hair if I was ever to grow it out? Don't even know if that would be realistic enough. Be more like this. There you go. Perfect. Some good hairstyles here. Pretty good. Oh, there we go. That's much better. Perfect, guys. Why can't it connect there? That's terrible. At least I can do that. Maybe I might allow myself to have a bit of regrowth with terrible widow's peak. Amazing. Let's change it up a bit. What I like about this is this can be like an in-universe place to go to a, what's the word that I'm looking for? A barber, you know, so you can actually change your hair a bit. Sometimes I rock the stubble and moustache combo as well. Some good ones here. This one changes my face shape. What's going on here? What's this? It's a full face. I got different cheekbones with that one. Oh, the little sideburns. Oh, I do love some chops. Let's see. I feel like we're gonna have a beard trim. Let's change it up a bit. I'm gonna rock a stash. We're gonna rock the stash and stubble for a little bit. So it's still us underneath all that hair, but we're gonna change it up a bit. Nice. There you go. We've had a bit of a change. We gotta clean up the face for Isabella, you know. God, I look terrible. The beard really makes the man, does it not? All right, we've got a vessel of tears. I've got to get used to my new appearance now. A vessel of tears. Although this wax-stoppered vessel is clearly labelled tears shed during the burning of Treviso, many questions remain, not the least of which is, which burning of Treviso? When the Canari conquered it in the 35th year of the Steel Age? When it was burned by the liberating armies of the White and Black Divines during the Second Exalted March of the 52nd year of the Storm Age? Or when it accidentally burned to the ground in the 62nd year of the Blessed Age after a dockhand knocked over a lantern in a warehouse full of lamp oil? Even assuming the correct event would be determined, the question of whose tears have been collected remains. Presumably not any of the numerous fire victims, surviving relatives perhaps, nobles with summoner homes on the Antivan coast. It should be noted that nowhere on the label does it say that these tears were shed in relation to the event, so they could have been tears of a woman in Montsamard, weeping because she was not asked to dance at the last costume ball, unaware that at the very last moment, one of the greatest port cities of Thedas was aflame. I love all of the Genitivi's letters to Sister Petrine. He's just writing all these weird events that have taken place. All right, let's actually talk to Xenon the Antiquarian.
I am the great and magnificent Xenon the Antiquarian.
Amazing. You received the invitation? Then you are fortunate indeed. Xenon is no ordinary man, as you will discover for yourself when you enter the Black Emporium. The items you'll see resting in the chair is not one of the displays, rather it is the proprietor. It may speak to you. That's Xenon, using the mystical bauble that has allowed him to communicate since he lost the power of speech. The story tells that Xenon was a Kirkwall nobleman in the Age of Steel, almost 300 years ago. Obsessed with the pursuit of eternal life, he made a deal with a powerful witch. Some say it was the legendary Antivan Witch of the Wares, and his wish was granted. He obtained eternal life, but not eternal youth. His body became decrepit, and he used his vast wealth to seek out ways to preserve it. Some were magical, many were dangerous, and almost all of them were unsuccessful. What remains is an immobile mass of twisted flesh, and I think Xenon's mind has slowly decayed along with his body. He hid away in the Undercity and has slowly amassed a collection that's sure to amaze. If he invited you, he thinks you have the coin he needs to further his search for a cure. Just don't think of stealing anything. The golem is not for show. Although you're free to look around the shop, I wouldn't suggest staying over long. You might be present for one of the baths his servant gives him hourly to keep his flesh from becoming completely desiccated. Trust me, you don't want that. From a letter of unknown origin in the 49th year of the Blessed Age. That is amazing. And also the story and lore about it, even in general, is amazing. Ugh, this twisted, decrepit flesh, of which there's like multiple legs and multiple arms. He's like, and he's holding onto the chair with multiple arms. He's like melted into this chair. Oh my god. Okay. Nice. That's an incredible tale right there. This is cool. The environment here and what we've been able to do is fascinating. I fucking love it. This twisted mirror of transformation. Sorry, I can't do it. I can't take my guy's head seriously. He needs to have a clean head. It's the only thing that's bugging me. There we go. Clean head. Back to the moustache era of Apocalypse in game. God, that screaming box. Okay, wonderful. That's the Black Emporium. Does it change at night? Let's see if it changes at night. Let's leave. We will return at night. Is it different? It was worth checking just to see.
Let me know what you'd like to purchase. Looking this dapper costs a lot of gold.
That classic like monkey paw scenario of getting eternal life and then not really realizing the whole aging aspect of that. You need to also ensure that you've got eternal youth mixed up in that, or you're going to suffer the fate of Xenon. Amazing. I'm actually going to bring this episode of Dragon Age to a close with that in mind. So we're going to have a short and sweet little encapsulated premium content related episode where we have read all of the items and visited the Black Emporium. So it's been a very lore-heavy, Codex-centric episode, which I think is quite fun to do sometimes because I really enjoy reading the lore of Dragon Age, and I hope you enjoy listening to it as well, because there's a lot of people that don't tend to listen to it or engage with it in their own playthroughs, and then they get a chance to learn a lot more through my playthroughs based on what I've seen in sort of feedback and commentary about it. So I really appreciate that I get to be sort of like a go-to for that kind of thing, which is really nice. Let's finish off the episode. We'll cap it off by leveling up our characters because they've also been given some attribute points. So we're going to do that now. And then we'll be able to start next episode on a really nice sort of page of the final main quests that we have in our journal for now. So in terms of brittle targets, I think it was... what's the brittle... Where's that at? I need to remember. It's the petrify one. So we want desiccate, which turns... some enemies brittle, so we'll do that, which will be a nice little mix with me and Hawk. We will again focus on cunning and dex for Varric, and we will increase the power of the rain of arrows, the hail of arrows, and turn it into a storm of arrows. We will also now do yours as well. Perfect. We will give her maxed out all of the dual weapon trees, abilities that we've put points into. Explosive Strike completes the combo built up by Unforgiving Chain. Every basic melee attack that the rogue completed immediately prior to using Explosive Strike increases the damage inflicted by breaking the chain. Okay. That's a cool little one that plays into a previous thing, which is kind of great. Let's do Blindside. 120% damage versus enemies engaging other allies, which works perfectly for Taunt of a Warrior. Lovely. With that level up and that premium content read and completed, this episode now comes to a close. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you've enjoyed this reading session, and I will see you next time for the main quest.